If you were a believer in Nigeria watching your village burn, you would think that you were already into rapture. You would think tribulation's already happening. So I'd say one of the most dangerous ideologies floating around now, almost laughable, is there are believers walking around today acting like they possess some kind of natural superpower with the way they believe, or they act like they got some kind of secret authority that the early church didn't possess, or somehow the early church they lacked. You look no further to how we obsess over the rapture. In the United States, Christians spend countless of their hours, they'll debate over timelines, they'll read fictional books, they'll try to comfort themselves in the idea that the moment things get slightly uncomfortable, that they're going to be magically beamed out of here. And if you take the Western understanding of the rapture and you try to take that, you overlay it on, say, what's happening with the believers in Nigeria right now. So you take that understanding, if you try to overlay it, it becomes completely irrelevant. It means absolutely nothing to those people. And if you think about it, a lot of American Christians, they're sitting around air-conditioned sanctuaries arguing about the future escape plan. And our brothers and sisters in Nigeria, they're living through absolute hell, a brutal slaughter, actual genocide for what they believe. Thousands of those Christians, they've been systematically targeted, hunted down, they've been murdered by jihadists just for professing the same name of Yeshua or Jesus that you profess. Now, if you were a believer in Nigeria watching your village burn, you would think that you were already into rapture. You would think tribulation's already happening. You're already facing a fire. And then to think God's engineered some kind of special get out of jail free card for you to be comfortable. That's just the modern American ideology. While the rest of the world bleeds out just because we're in the West. I don't know, I guess that's the peak of Western theological arrogance, if you could wrap your mind around that. And we see the exact same narrow peripheral vision when it comes to extraterrestrials or anomalies or anomalous phenomena. The moment somebody brings up some kind of weird encounters that they can't explain, most people go right, it's demons, it's angels. That's exactly what it is. It's demons tricking us. And they're kind of taught to believe that. The pastor, he'll stand right there in the pulpit telling his congregation, if you ever encounter something like this, just rebuke it. Use the name of Jesus and you'll vanquish it. So what happens when that tactic don't work? What happens when they cry out to Jesus or Yeshua, every bit of their soul, and that entity don't leave? I'll tell you what happens. You just cause that person to completely question their faith. They think, if my pastor said to rebuke it would work, and it didn't, then either my faith is fake, or this entire belief system is a lie. Never once thinking that they may have been relayed some information from someone that was closed-minded and really didn't look at the whole picture. Now, let's look at the early post-resurrection believers. They were hunted down, tortured, ripped apart, and you think that those devout Christians, when they were being tortured, they weren't crying for mercy? Christ didn't deliver them from that trauma, from that fire. They didn't get off and they weren't magically delivered. So where do we get off thinking we're completely insulated from the strange, terrifying realities of the vast, multidimensional creation? I think we're naive to think so. Then these pastors, they're doing a massive disservice. One, by forcing this cosmic reality into a binary angel or demon box. And then number two, by staying completely silent about it and refusing to shepherd their congregations. Definitely something that's coming to the earth, and a lot of people aren't ready for it. A lot of people are going to completely ignore it and not get ready for it. Now, contrary to popular belief, most deep theologians agree that we ain't at the center of the universe. We're just a single spoke in this big wheel of God's magnificent sweeping story. We're just part of His story. This ain't our story, this is His story, and we're a part of it. We're not His only creation. And to understand what's really happening, we had to stop being afraid of the history. We got to revisit some of the texts that didn't make it in the canon. Now look, some of those books, they were absolutely left out for a good reason. The Book of Thomas is dangerous Gnosticism. The second and third Enoch, they're filled with medieval mysticism, Jewish mysticism, self-worship ideologies, and they try to turn man into a god. It's ancient polytheism wrapped in a new paper. But when you look at Book of Enoch 1, specifically the early part, the Book of the Watchers, it don't teach self-worship. It was left out because it points to some of those ultimate taboo subjects that the institutional churches, they really wanted to bury. They weren't ready to talk about. And Enoch fills in massive gaps in those timelines that people completely gloss over in Genesis. And we got to stop pretending that the creation was literally a 24-hour, 7-day event. Anyone who's studied this stuff deeply knows that there's thousands of years there that took, to create this stuff. Some of the things that it completely jumps over. I mean, you just can't deny it unless you just want to be naive. Now, if you're a church leader in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and you're still repeating what Pastor John taught you back in the 60s and 70s, and you're telling the people all that stuff, you ain't tried to educate yourself anymore, then I'd say you're the problem. Especially if you're teaching exactly how you were back then and you hadn't picked up anything extra. I mean, to be so naive to say you had the full story back then and you didn't have to pick anything else up just kind of says a lot about you. True science don't pull us away from the Creator. And the more we learn about quantum physics, biotechnology, and the universe, the more it points to the flawless, intelligent design. Science brings us closer to God, if you're honest enough to follow the data. But you can't see the data if you don't look at the original language. I mean, just look at the word in Genesis they used for serpent, Nachash. And this word supposedly translated over to serpent, but in the original Hebrew context and translation to Greek, the root word holds a triple meaning. It can mean different things. It can mean snake, it can mean shining, it can mean luminous being, it can mean a magician, it can mean a whisperer, and it can mean bronze or shining metal. So you got to take the context of that day in history and lay it on top of that and think about it. A luminous metallic whispering entity, kind of fascinating to think about. And to think about that, a luminous being, then you kind of think about a magician or a whisperer, then think that a metallic object. Think about our current space programs called NASA, and that's pretty much the same word as the Hebrew, what they use for the serpent. When you kind of look at those parallels, gets a little weird, but that's a whole different rabbit hole. But looking at the description of the Son of Man having hair like wool, people want to argue over the race and they want to make this something to prove that Jesus was black or something like that. I agree. I think Jesus was Arab. Using this just kind of points to a lot of the blatant ignorance. So when you translate it, the hair like wool, it's not describing the texture of the hair. It's actually talking about like the blinding whiteness and the divinity, like a description of pure, unadulterated cosmic glory, if you will. My point is this: you got to stop accepting what was believed 10 years ago just because it's comfortable and forces you to look outside your box. You got to stop forcing the infinite Creator and His vast universe into a narrow, safe lens. When you can't force the anomalies into that, you can't push those off your theological box. You don't get to just push it off as fake pseudoscience or demonic. All you're doing is leading people astray and leaving them completely defensive when the illusion finally shatters. It's time to open up your eyes, dig into the original language, and stop letting arrogance blind you. You got to see the true scale of God's story, not just a little bit that was painted to you in Sunday school. I want y'all to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that subscribe. We're going to go deeper next week. Y'all take it easy.